Hi and welcome to Debunk File. My name is Sep and today we are going to be talking about the remnants of Playground. Now before this video starts, make sure to check out our Instagram at DebunkFile and our Twitter at TrueGIF. Also, don't forget to most importantly check out our Patreon, even pledging $1 really helps. We also opened up a new Discord and it's the best way to communicate with us. Now back to the video. Telling stories through the world of the internet has always been something that is very popular, especially scary ones. Creepypastas were, for years, some of the most infamous forms of internet horror storytelling, but more recently, there is now a new kind of storytelling that has become very popular, and that is ARGs. An ARG is a story that takes place in the real world and is fueled by viewer interaction. They usually are in video format or social media websites. We've even covered one before, and that was Meat Sleep. Like mentioned before, there is a multitude of ARGs throughout the internet, but out of all of them, Playground could possibly be the most fascinating. In May 26 of 2016, a YouTube channel by the name of The Remnants of Playground was created, along with a forum that we will get into more later. A day after the creation of the YouTube channel, the first video was released, titled The Remnants of Playground. This video is completely in text, and it basically explains that the owner of the channel, who was referred to as the Protagonist, explained that he was once part of a diminutive internet group known as Playground. The group consisted of 5 people, and out of those 5 had camcorders, where they made videos that they would share around with each other. He goes on to explain that he was the one without the camcorder, and the rest of the group was unaware of his presence. He also says that what he saw, he never forgot. The group was active between the years of 1999 to 2003 before disbanding, and apparently he never heard anything from any of these members since. He goes on to say that he might be the only person in the world to have these files, and says the purpose of this channel is to share the things that he saw, but at the same time, he explains that some of these videos get so bad he can't even post them on YouTube. A couple days later, the first true video release, titled Scott01. In a description of each of these videos, there is a note that shows the original title name, just to give you an idea of when this video took place, and in this case, it's 2003. In this video, the man that is talking, who is Scott, basically introduced himself, explaining that he was a boys' soccer coach, implying that he no longer is one. Throughout the entire video, he seems to be in a very strange type of denial about the situation. Throughout this video, he sits in the bleachers and coaches a team that doesn't even exist.
Overlap and let's get this practice going! Okay, let's get a scrimmage going on here. The sun is going down. I'm telling the boys to come on in. Come on in, practice is over.
After that video, the channel didn't upload again for a full month, until a video titled Update Video 1 released. This video begins with Protagonist thanking everybody for 70 subscribers before getting into the important stuff. He basically explains that he doesn't have all of the files in one place yet, since there were a lot of videos, and basically explains that this is in combination with his busy schedule, has held him back from releasing new videos. Normally none of this would matter, since we're 2 years past all of this, but the most important part of the video follows. He explains that to hold us over for the next video, he made a paste bin. In this paste bin, he explains some info about each member of the group. He explains that in the infancy of Playground, there was only member 1 and member 2. He states that member 1 was a very weird guy, but somewhere inside, he was a good person. Member 2, on the other hand, was not. He defines member 2 as being a morbid person and the most deprived of the group. He even refers to member 2 as the antagonist of the story. Down the line, members 3 and 4 came along, both recruited by member 1, and that was to be the permanent size of the group, meaning Protagonist is obviously number 5. He ends the note saying that each member has a certain series, and that more videos are on the way. Later that month, the beginning of a new series was released, titled For Cameron. The original files show that this was the one from May of 2000, obviously making the series much older than the aforementioned Scott series. With the series being titled For Cameron, it is implied that the main character is not Cameron. This is shown because throughout this video, he basically reminisces on the memories he shared with Cameron. The way he talks about Cameron insinuates that Cameron has passed away.
This must be the grade he was talking about. That thing's covered up. Cameron, do you remember when we used to hide down there? It wasn't all overgrown. Do you remember? Down there, we read comics and things.
The following video is the return to the Scott series. In the first video, Scott seemed to be in a strange type of denial about everything, going as far as coaching an imaginary game, but in this video, he seems deeply hurt from the firing of his job.
Am I allowed to get my ball back? These bleachers aren't as good as the ones over there. Just saying.
At the end of the video though, he says, "I deserve the coach, and I will be back."
I deserve to coach this team, and I will be back.
After that, there was another hiatus until September, where in the span of a week, Scott 3 and 4 came. Scott 3 starts off noticeably different than the last one. In the last Scott video, he was deeply hurt by him no longer being coach, but in this one, he seems really happy again.
Oh, the sand, it's like a beach. Oh my god.
He starts acting like he did in the first video again, all happy and in denial. For example, he coaches an imaginary team again.
Kick the ball. See, this is a good time. I get to sit here and watch the game going on.
But the video takes a very peculiar turn. He declares that he has a deal for the head manager that he just can't refuse.
I have a deal for him, and a deal he can't refuse. But you know, I have nothing against the guy.
What he means by that is unknown. He mentions something about not wanting to go to town, and at approximately 3 minutes into the video, some text appears on the ground saying, "I'm just a cool guy." This is incredibly odd because this video is supposed to be from 2003, where editors weren't as widespread as today. Another argument could be that the protagonist edited it in. But again, why would he even do that? He then starts talking to a manhole in what seems to be like a rehearsal for what he's going to say to the head manager about getting his job back.
Well, is there a deal? I have a deal I could propose to you if you want.
By far the strangest part of the video is the ending. Scott zooms in on a mask saying,
"My face,"
before the camera blacks out twice, with the video ending with him dropping it.
It's okay. Guys, you keep going on the game.
This mask is incredibly odd and actually becomes somewhat of a theme throughout the videos, and we will talk more on that later. Scott 4 came next, which is definitely the darkest and at the same time most intriguing video that is on the channel. For starters, the date is incredibly odd. The date of this video is 2004, even though the group disbanded in 2003. Again, we will discuss that later as the video in itself is exceptionally odd. The first full minute of the video is just Scott running around the field at night. Because it's so dark you can't exactly see why he's running or where he's going. A little bit after that, he turns on his flashlight revealing text in red that clearly says, "Death." About a minute after that, his hand appears and has blood all over it, and some other substance. A minute after that, he picks up a newspaper that was undoubtedly made by him. But the weirdest part is what it says. The newspaper says, "Award-winning coach let go after strange files found on hard drive." These are unquestionably the files that were shared around in Playground, the files that Protagonist explained as being so bad he can't show some of them. Following the aforementioned events, we see another hand-drawn flyer that was probably also made by Scott. This flyer says, "We love you, Scott." The video then ends with Scott crying. Now what followed was a ginormous hiatus, but don't think nothing happened, because in reality, a ton of things happened on the forums. Right when the 4th Scott video came out, Protagonist said not to get your hopes up on seeing the 5th one, but the biggest thing that happened during the hiatus was the emergence of a channel named Former Adolescents. A board was created by Protagonist saying that he was a bully and overall terrible person, but his YouTube channel has some very interesting goods buried beneath the surface. The video that put him on the map was titled, "The Remnants of Pl4ygrnd is not a good channel." In this video, he goes on to explain that Pl4ygrnd should be stopped and that it's not a good premise.
It's got lies. It's a bad channel. So I'm trying to prevent a bad channel, not a very good.
Throughout his videos, he is using Windows XP, constantly writes numbers instead of letters, and always talks about Pl4ygrnd, and this means something. He is 100% connected in some way. Pay attention to his voice, and you'll notice he sounds a lot like the same person in the Cameron series.
This isn't right. Wow, this is going over really well.
And seems to be stuck in the same time period as well, with evidence of himself still using Windows XP, just finding out what Pokemon is, not knowing what an app store is, a video he made covering the hottest songs of 2003, and much more. When confronted by a commenter who said it is currently 2017, he replied with, "LOL, this guy isn't making any sense." There was also a 17-minute video called The Pl4ygrnd Rant, and this video is basically a Leafy parody and is instead talking about Pl4ygrnd. In this video, he says much of the same things he talked about in the first video, but the most interesting thing lies in the description. If you look in the description, you will see a paste bin. If you click the link, you will see a paste bin that says nothing at all except for Cameron with a question mark. Does this mean that former adolescence is the voice behind the Cameron videos? I would have to assume so. Why else would he sound so much like him and even know who Cameron is? Why would he be so mad at Pl4ygrnd posting videos of the group? Another thing that happened during the hiatus was another member of the group came out on the forum. His name is Sleep, and he had a very different attitude than the aforementioned former adolescents. Unlike former adolescents, he seems happy that Pl4ygrnd is spreading to the outside world, and is also a lot more open to talk than former. When asked if he was a member of a group, he said he was. Near the end of 2016, a forum called Don't Do It was posted. A guy whose username is Don't Do It posted a paragraph saying, "Don't listen to him, don't trust him, don't do it. I know you like talking about him, it isn't worth it, trust me, more people knew about this than he thinks. I posted a lot about it on forums back in the day, I even got a small following that kept tabs on my posting. Don't believe me? Just wait for the pig." Those were the worst. After the whole puzzle solving process, a few got really unlucky. Things were so different when everything was actually happening. Some got to see every last thing with their own eyes. Thank God I didn't. I wouldn't be here typing this if I did. That's why he's so evil. You have to understand. You have to. There's a reason number 5 calls him the antagonist. This is an incredibly strange post, but we will talk about it more later, as down the line, it starts to make more sense. A month before Protagonist finally started uploading again, he put an update on the forum and some incredibly important things were on it. In this update, he answers a question we mentioned much earlier in the video, and says that why was the 4th Scott video set in 2004? He says that he isn't entirely sure, but he did come up with the theory. He thinks that Scott accidentally set his camera a year in the future, meaning all of his videos were really in 2002, and the 4th and presumably 5th took place in 2003. That being said, something way bigger was mentioned in the update. Over the months he was gone, he was talking to Sleep, who he confirmed to be member 3, and as it turns out, Protagonist was wrong about his presence being undetected. When he was there, secretly watching over each terrifying video that would be sent, the other members actually knew he was there, and they even allowed it out of some sick sort of pleasure that they had, a little spy to watch over these morbid videos that were sent around. He also mentions how former adolescence has constantly been harassing him, trying not to let the files get out. Despicable person, and calls him dangerous. This ongoing feud between the protagonist and former has led many people, including myself, to believe that former is member 2, the antagonist. Another thing to mention was the amount of series that got forum boards but were never released. Each series on the YouTube channel would get a forum board. For example, Scott and for Cameron would each have their own board, but when you look on the forum, there is at least 10 boards for different series that never saw the light of day. It only makes me wonder, what were they about? In July, the long-awaited return of videos came, the hiatus finally concluded, and the next video was For Cameron 2. If you remember in the last For Cameron video, he was essentially reminiscing on memories he shared with Cameron, but in this video, he seems to be in some sort of denial. Throughout the entirety of the video, he's waiting for Cameron, while constantly saying Cameron should be coming any minute now.
I'm just waiting here for Cameron. Just waiting for everybody here, you know. Got my old friend.
And of course, Cameron never shows up. This leads the other members slowly losing sanity. He starts cradling himself on the ground and his voice becomes squeakier.
He's gonna be here any second. He's gonna be here any second. He's gonna be here any second. He's gonna be here any second.
Another very important thing to note is at one point in the video, he drops a pair of giant gloves on the ground. I have no clue what this means, but it reminds me of the mask in Scott 3. A month later, a new video came out, an intro to a new series called I Love You. On the forum, he states that this series in particular gets very dark, and he debated whether or not to even upload it. He says he hopes this series shows how evil and depraved some people can be, even if they have a friendly voice. As far as this video goes, not much actually happens, but there are a few things to note. For starters, this file shows that it was recorded in 1999, making it the oldest video yet. Another major thing to notice is, the character in this video wears a pig mask. This is definitely the pig mask that one post mentioned, the pig mask of the antagonist. If you listen to his voice, it sounds very familiar.
It's a friendly little place that I go, but I just wanted to test it out. See how it is. You know.
It sounds like the same person in the 4 Cameron series, which means it also sounds like formal adolescent. The wording he used in the forum post also stuck out to me. He mentioned that the series gets very dark, but the most important thing is the wording of evil and depraved. This is the exact wording he used when explaining member 2, the antagonist in the paste bin a very long time ago. If this is the same voice of formal adolescence, who has constantly harassed Protagonist, I think it's safe to assume he is the dreaded antagonist, especially with the post saying the pig mask is the antagonist. About a month later, I Love You 2 was released. If you look at the original file, it's the only one on the YouTube channel without a date, as the original file says I Love You 2. Protagonist says this is normal, as half of the videos had dates and the other half didn't. Like the last I Love You video, not much actually happens again, but there is a few things worth noting. On the forum when this video was posted, he wonders how much footage is cut from the version he has compared to the one that was filmed. This is the only video with a clock on the side, which lets you know whenever there is a cut. There is a lot of cuts in this video, but since he really wasn't doing anything, I have no idea what would have been cut in the first place. The most notable thing in this video is that you can constantly hear the sounds of a little girl and her guardian playing in a nearby playground. Once he goes up to the playground they are at, he starts taping himself to it, and the little girl, who even gets into camera for a couple seconds, isn't even fazed by a kid wearing a pig mask taping himself to a playground. It's just really odd, and something we probably won't get an answer to. But up to this point, the final video was released, at least so far as for Cameron 3. Unlike the aforementioned I Love You videos, this one has a surplus of things to talk about. The first minute of this video is him running around at night looking for Cameron. Around the 2-minute mark in the video, he looks at the sky and says it can't be night.
Oh no. It can't be night. It can't be night.
It's unknown what this means, but there's obviously a reason he said that. A little bit after that, he starts sprinting, as if after something. After he stops sprinting, he says,
No, I'm not ready.
As if he's talking to Cameron. The camera falls over and then starts slowly moving back and forth. After that, the camera cuts to a view of the sky, then a view of the woods, a few times before zooming in on the woods with a jarring noise, ending the video. For some reason, the night is important to Cameron, and with the jump scare zooming into the woods, it makes me suspect the woods has an unknown significance to the main character, and, most likely, Cameron as well. So as far as the video goes, that is all that has been uploaded thus far, but there are still many things to talk about, and a number of questions that are still burning in the brains of many people who have watched their videos, the largest of which is, what is the deal with the 5th Scott video? A post was made saying that every series has 5 videos, meaning Scott, for Cameron, I Love You, and the other series mentioned in the forums that were never released all had 5 videos. We got all the way up to Scott 4, but there were countless posts about how dark the 5th video was, and that's why he can't upload it. One post in particular was incredibly interesting. Someone asked what the deal is with the 5th Scott video, and that Protagonist actually answered saying that horrible video will never see the light of day. But for those who are really curious, I will give you this. He sent a link of 3-second audio which basically just sounds like Scott groaning. There's a lot of other questions like, why did every series have 5 videos, and can't he release videos explaining in text rather than what's actually happening? He did say in the intro video that he would do that, but it never wound up happening. There was also a couple reoccurring themes throughout the entirety of these videos. For starters, with the videos being called Playground, every video is actually in a playground field. The Scott videos are all in a baseball field. In For Cameron, you can see a basketball court, and I Love You is in a playground. There was also a theme of memory issues. Former adolescents still thinks it's 2003, and Scott is constantly on a baseball field even though he was a soccer coach. And there is a date screw up that Scott also had with the camera. I honestly have no idea what any of this means, but we could really use some help. Now I want to talk about everything we know about the members. Member 1 recruited every member, and unfortunately we don't have a clue who he could have been. All we know is that he was a really weird guy with a good heart. Member 2, the antagonist is the pigman who is almost certainly former adolescents, and most likely the voice in the For Cameron videos as well, as former adolescents had the pace been saying, Cameron? Member 3 is Sleep, who unlike the antagonist wants the videos to get out there and was open to talk to Protagonist. Member 4 we literally know nothing about, and Member 5 is the Protagonist. This file is definitely undetermined. While we did find out who more than half the members were, we never really learned that much about the series as a whole. There are still tons of questions floating about, and with the last video being uploaded almost a year ago, it is uncertain if we will ever get answers in the future.